Okay, so if you have lived in the tri-state area of New York City for any number of years, you have heard about how disgusting the five boroughs were during the 70s and 80s. And it's bullshit. 90% of the people who tell you that, A, either weren't living here at the time, or B, were not born yet. So they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. New York City of the 70s and 80s was a very special time and place. Millions of us grew up in the city during those decades, and sure, were there pockets of filth and crime and spots you knew where not to go? Of course. But if you knew what you were doing, you were all street smart, you knew to travel in packs, and that is funny. I remember when I was briefly in the military, people asked me if I could walk into Central Park at night. I mean, that's all we did. We used to spend Friday and Saturday nights walking from the west side across the park to the east side to go see movies. They used to have this wonderful enclave of movie theaters on East 86th Street back in the day. Lexington Avenue, Third Avenue, First Avenue. It was wonderful. And they had a Grace Papaya there, 25-cent hot dogs. We used to go watch Eddie Murphy movies there, Arnold Schwarzenegger movies there. It was a fantastic place to be. So I do not regret growing up there at that time. And anyone who tells you it was purely filth and murder doesn't know what they're talking about. Okay, so the reason I bring up that era is because that also coincides with the golden age of hip hop, or as we call it back then, rap. For those who don't know, rap was born in the Bronx. Africa Bambaataa started it, and Grandmaster Flash. And the first LP I ever bought was a single by Sugar Hill Gang. Sugar Hill's in the Bronx. The title was Eighth Wonder. They used to have LP singles, and I used to listen to Eighth Wonder over and over and over again. I fell in love with rap music the instant I heard it. And my first 45 was Michael Jackson, Rock With You. My first LP was Eighth Wonder, Sugar Hill Gang. Anyway, there used to be this little record store on 99th Street in Columbus Avenue. I used to go there and get all my stuff and my little cassette tapes. I had my little Sony Walkman, the big block ones with the foam earphones. Anyway, rap was born in New York City. It was cultivated in New York City, and it took off in New York City. And of course, it branched off to the West Coast, and now it's big in Atlanta and Detroit, and all, of course, Snoop Dogg and Dre and NWA and Kendrick Lamar now. But anyway, so I am going to give you a list of the greatest old school. The golden age of hip hop is considered 1984 to 1993, and I am going to give you Questlove. The drummer Questlove said the golden age of hip hop ended in November of '93 when Wu-Tang Clan came out with Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, and Tribe Called Quest released Midnight Marauders. He is correct with that. And so I'm going to give you the best hip-hop groups, individuals, whatever you want to call them, artists of all time from the golden age of hip-hop. Okay. We'll start with number 10. Number 10 is EPMD. EPMD doesn't resonate today. I don't feel that the music is dated, but they were fantastic. They were late 90s, early 90s phenomenon. Wonderful. Total Chaos. So What You Saying, The Big Payback. They were just ridiculous. They have that I Shot the Sheriff Bob Marley remix, Strictly Business. So yeah, they came out with several great songs. Not quite anthem in impact, but close to an anthem here or there. But EPMD, wonderful group. Let's see, number 9, LL Cool J. Everybody thinks of LL Cool J as a contemporary guy. He's on the CSI or whatever he is on now, or he's on some crime show, and he's doing great. He looks great. He's aged well. He's doing his thing. But LL Cool J was there when it began, for the most part. 1984, Rock the Bells. He's from Queens, from same place as Run DMC. He his more popular, more contemporary songs, Mama Said Knock You Out, and Doing It Well, Headsprung. LL Cool J is a bona fide hip-hop megastar and icon, and that might get lost in all of his celebrity acting prowess, but he's legit. Number 8, Big Daddy Kane. Big Daddy Kane ain't no half stepping, raw. He was ridiculous. I don't know what happened to Big Daddy Kane. I know he still performs, but he was like a hip hop shooting star. Like, he was great for like 2-3 years, and then, as far as I know, he didn't make any more music. But Big Daddy Kane for about 2 years was as good as it gets. Number 7, Run DMC. I know people will get upset about this because I should have them rated higher. Even though Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash and Sugar Hill Gang were sort of the parents of the origins of hip-hop, Run DMC put rap on the map. Without Run DMC, there is no rap as we understand today. There is no hip-hop. Run DMC made it mainstream. They teamed up with Aerosmith. I mean, I could just go through over Christmas and Hollis. When I first heard Sucker MCs, I was like, what is that? This guy was walking by with his boombox. I was in a playground on 97th Street with a guy named John Hardy. And this is not a cinematic contrivance. People used to walk around with these huge boomboxes. You would listen to Kiss FM or WBLS. You record the mixes from Chuck Chill Out or DJ Red Alert. And you would go to a basketball court. You would put the boombox down, and you would just hit that tape, hit that play button, and you would just hear the latest mix from the Kiss Mix at 6 or WBLS would have one, I think, from 9 to midnight on Fridays. Anyway, it was special. And Run DMC, I mean, Hard Times, Peter Piper, Here We Go. I mean, the list of bona fide hits from Run DMC is as long as any hip-hop artist in history. You know, I mean, it seems silly now with the Lees, with the permanent crease, and the Kango, and the belt buckle with your name on it, and the Le Tigre or Izod shirt. But it was the shit back then. Everybody rolled like Run DMC back in the day. There were 3 huge cultural influencers in the 80s. Michael Jackson, Eddie Murphy, and Run DMC, at least in New York City. So, Public Enemy, number 7. Number 6, KRS-One. You might also know him. Let me take this thing off this fucking... Nobody can see. KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions, you might know him as. 2 anthems, The Bridge Is Over, Love's Gonna Get You. Formerly a homeless man who made himself into a hip-hop superstar. Did it all himself. Incredibly talented. KRS-One is close to the Mount Rushmore. Number 5, Slick Rick. I struggle with this one because Slick Rick feels like he should be higher, because it's hard to think of there are very few rappers better than Slick Rick, certainly during the 80s and early 90s. The Show with Dougie Fresh, Children's Stories, incredible. Hey Young World's amazing. And he did make a bona fide anthem in the 80s, which was Lottie Dottie. So Slick Rick could easily be 2 or 3 on this list. I'm just putting him 5th because the 4 in front of him are just too big to ignore. So Slick Rick, buy him now. It's not dated. It's still wonderful shit. Number 4, Tribe Called Quest. Bonita Applebaum, Electric Relaxation, Scenario, Can I Kick It? I mean, it just goes on and on with Tribe Called Quest. Tribe Called Quest was like a bridge between the 80s and the 90s. They brought a different sound, different attitude to hip-hop. So Tribe Called Quest, on the edge of the Mount Rushmore, maybe even a part of the Mount Rushmore. Number 3, as you can see, I'm a Wu-Tang fan. There you go. Wu-Tang, number 3. The greatest hip-hop album ever made was their first, Enter the Wu-Tang, what people call 36 Chambers, straight from the slums of Shaolin. Wu-Tang Clan, forget it. That one album was like Nevermind from Nirvana or 10 from Pearl Jam. Just everything was a hit. Can It Be So Simple? Protect Your Neck, maybe, probably their best song ever. Cream, Cash Rules Everything Around Me, Get the Money. What else? The Mystery of Chess Boxing. Method Man. I mean, it just goes on and on. Wu-Tang Clan is, as a group, either the first or second greatest group. Actually, I'll have to say second, because the next group in front of them is number 2 on the list. That would be Public Enemy. Public Enemy is Public Enemy. Their music is great today as it was back then. Don't Believe the Hype, Welcome to the Terror Dome, Fight the Power. That's an iconic song from the Spike Lee movie Do the Right Thing. Rosie Perez in the boxing trunks dancing to Fight the Power. Don't Believe the Hype, Rebel Without a Pause, Terminator X to the Edge of Panic. This is just off the top of my head. Run DMC's, I mean, Run DMC, sorry. Public Enemy, Chuck D, Flavor Flav, 911 is a joke. Public Enemy came out with 3 classic albums. So, yeah. Fear of a Black Planet, Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Public Enemy is on the Mount Rushmore, up there with Teddy Roosevelt and Thomas Jefferson Abraham. They belong there, okay? What else can you say? Chuck D is a rap deity. And they are second to number 1, the God. And there's only one God in the history of hip-hop, and that is Rakim. They were packaged as Eric B. and Rakim. Eric B. was, of course, his DJ. But Rakim has the greatest sense of style. Rakim had the best voice in the history of rap, or hip-hop, if you prefer. Rakim had the best lyrics, the best rhymes, the best music, the best everything. Eric B. and Rakim, check out my melody. Eric B. is president. Don't Sweat the Technique. And, of course, the classic Paid in Full. Paid in Full speaks for itself. It's a great album. It's a great song. Rakim is God. The best lyrics maybe I've ever heard were a song called In the Ghetto by Eric B. and Rakim. It's just, I thought the ghetto was the worst that could happen to me. I'm glad I listened when my father was rapping to me. It's ridiculous. Rakim is like, I Know You Got Soul's another one. Constant elevation causes expansion. I write my rhymes while I cool in my mansion. My unusual style will confuse you a while. And if I was water, I'd float in the Nile. Man, if there's another Rakim, I'd love to hear about it. Everybody talks about Jay-Z. Jay-Z couldn't hold a candle to Rakim in terms of vocal ability and just, Rakim is so good, he should almost have his own class, and everyone is vying for second place. So, honorable mention. That's my top 10 honorable mention. Curtis Blow. Curtis Blow would sound very dated today, but he did 8 Million Stories, AJ, Basketball. Curtis Blow was a phenomenal rapper back in the 80s. Mantronics, mostly for their music. Just listen to Mantronics. Ends with an X. Mantronics with an X. Wonderful stuff. Nice and Smooth. I almost put Nice and Smooth in the top 10. Sometimes I rhyme slow, sometimes I rhyme quick. Funky for You. Nice and Smooth was, I wanted to put them in the top 10, but I just couldn't get there. Ghetto Boys. Ghetto Boys rounds out my honorable mention. Ghetto Boys, fantastic. My mind's playing tricks on me. Fantastic group. If they didn't come out in such a fertile era of rappers and rap music, they might have cracked the top 10, but they didn't. So, anyway, New York City, back in the day before the gentrification, wonderful, produced the best music and the best movies, which will be next. Everyone talks about what a shit show New York was in the 70s. How come it produced like 7 of the 10 greatest movies in the history of cinema in New York City? All right.